This week's episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Use promo code WrestlingFuture for 20% off your purchase. Manscaped.com and the Lawnmower 3.0. Your balls will thank you. Hello, friends, and welcome to a special edition of the Refs Roundtable here on Wrestling with the Future. It's actually funny. When I took over the Refs Roundtable, I took over from Jeff the Ref, and we happen to have a good friend of his on the show today, a superstar, money man himself, Irvin Legend. Irvin, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on here. We'll have a lot of fun.
Well, we're gonna get right to it. Obviously, I met you through my time in the wrestling, going to shows and various things. So, how did you get involved in the wrestling business?
Well, to be honest, I've always been into wrestling, and literally, right after I was actually a junior in high school, there was a promotion called SPW, which was ran by Mark Myers, Mark Anthony, and Marty Reed, and Curtis Mack, and all of them were training there. And they had this deal with Buffalo Wild Wings where we'd watch the pay-per-views, and then they would a little side TV, they'd show their stuff. So like, I went up to Mark. I was like, "Well, how much does training cost?" And he's like, $250 a month, which I couldn't afford $250 a month. I didn't have a job at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Waited about a year till I graduated, and I went to another school, HCW, which is like 15 minutes down the road in Norfolk. And I trained there for a few months, got my feet wet, got a little bit more money, and went back to SPW. I was hopping back and forth because I didn't know what the best place, to go. And by that time, I was, I had a little year of training under my belt. I graduated from SPW under Mark Myers, and then SPW got sold to Deshaun Wright at Yorktown PWA. So I became PWA, and that's where I got retrained by Marty Reed and Damian Wayne. And that was 2017, 2018. And after that, I just started branching out.
It's funny you talk about obviously how your life is connected. Eddie Graham down in Florida used to say the best characters are yourself turned up to 11. And I actually have to admit, it's kind of funny. Being a fan of yours before we got to know each other, I thought a lot of the persona was the character until I found out your connection with the Money Gym and all that. It was legit. So when I go and watch Irvin Legend in the ring, where does the man end and the character begin? Where does that line get blurred?
Well, to me, like, my hero, my inspiration, not even a wrestler, is Floyd Mayweather. So I didn't make the Money Team connection until last year, and I didn't get on the Money Team until a few months ago. But like, I was so fascinated with him, with us both being African American, pretty much the same height. We both came from broken homes. I was like, well, this guy's a billionaire. If he can be the best at his profession, why can't I? And the more that I watched him, the more I became him. And I'm not just like him, but I'm pretty damn close. I like to think. Some people even call me the Mid-Atlantic Mayweather, which I didn't call myself that. But
right.
Some people say that. But him and The Rock are definitely two of the inspirations from my character. And then Irvin Legend, just me bumped up, 10, 11. It's who I actually am,
Right. We've had numerous people through the months on the show, and a lot of the veterans that worked with studios and schools and all. They say one of the biggest problems with wrestling, with trying to train new wrestlers today, is some of these young kids come in and they have a gimmick already in mind, and they have a finisher already in mind, and a character already in mind. Where along the lines of your training, obviously you said it's just you turned up, where along the lines of your training did you decide to go with you turned up and not try and play a character that's completely against your nature?
Well, the biggest problem I see is when people try to portray a character that doesn't fit them. For me, it's natural because it's who I am. Most of these guys have a character that doesn't match their personality, and they don't have music to match. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, it all clicked, and then that comes my move. I did take boxing lessons at Sweet Pea Whitaker's boxing school, so I'm a brawler. I can do technical wrestling because of Tyson Kidd, because he's taught me a lot of things, which, by the way, I've been keeping this on the down low, but October 2021, I enrolled in Seth Rollins' school in Iowa.
Nice.
So I'm going to be training under Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins next year in the fall.
That's awesome. You mentioned Tyson Kidd. I saw a article come over my feeds today that he released kind of a training montage of sorts. Do you have any insight on how he's doing?
I mean, he's killing it. The gym, he's in best shape of his life.
Mm-hmm.
As far as him wrestling, I can't answer that because that's for him to answer himself. But I'd like to see him in the ring. I mean, he pretty much, like, the severity of his injury, because everybody's comparing his injury to Stone Cold's, and it's completely different. Tyson's break was way higher up than both, and technically speaking, it's like he got decapitated internally. That's how bad it was. So I mean, he should be in a wheelchair right now. He's not. He's working out. He's healthy. He's happy.
Right. Well, I remember when the injury happened, they actually mentioned that the fatality rate for that type of neck break is very high. So the fact that not only that he's not paralyzed, but that he survived at all and is, like you said, in the best shape. I mean, you did a chat with him recently, and he's jacked and still going in the gym, and that's impressive on his end. And I mean, are you involved in other than being a supportive friend? Have you had a chance to train or work with him at all?
We've worked out. We've worked out at One Life when they came to the Norfolk Scope. Me and him got an early workout. I'm supposed to be going to Florida in October, so we might try and get a workout or two then. Maybe do another live or something. We got something more.
Well, then let me ask you there. The obviously your travel and some of the local bits. How have you seen, being on the inside, wrestling? How is it living as a wrestler in the post-COVID world right now?
Oh man, it's like really rough because I'm used to be on the go, traveling, working. It's like we're all suffering, and it's like more power to. Here's the thing: I might get heat for this. I really don't care, but more power to the guys that are still working shows. But if WWE's not doing live events, if the biggest company in the world's not doing live events, what makes you think that I'm gonna wrestle for an indie fed and potentially catch COVID and then bring it home to my family?
Right.
Like, it's good. It's really hard to put on a show with a mask. You got to be body on body. It's not. I don't think it's worth it. I know you guys are desperate to wrestle, but as long as that's happening, COVID's still gonna be around.
Well, then let me ask you something. I don't know how much you follow the current product. Do you think that the COVID atmosphere with the empty arenas and the somewhat forced stories they have to go with because your roster is slimmed down, do you think that's what's impacting heavily the fact that across the board ratings are down for wrestling?
I think they're trying to give us something, but I definitely feel like there could be more of an effort. Like, everybody knows I'm a WWE guy, but AEW is killing it right now. And it's like with WWE, the problem with WWE is they got so much repetitive shit that we've already seen before, and that's why the ratings are going down. I don't know who exactly is in charge. I'm not trying to bury Trips or Vince, but they definitely come for something new, man, because it's like I don't even watch the product.
Right. Well, I was gonna say I wouldn't feel terrible about that based on ratings. No one else does either. The recent, the highest rated broadcast WWE's ever had was back in '99. There was a Raw, did an 8 share. It opened with the corporate ministry, if you remember that storyline, and that was, over 8.5 million people watching Raw. AEW just won the ratings war this week with 800,000 people. You're talking a tenth of your audience from 20 years ago. How much of that can you blame on COVID versus the product?
Obviously, COVID is a big deal, is a big reason for that, but it all boils down to creativity. I feel like WWE needs to make more of an effort to be more creative. The Underground, this ain't fucking fight night. Like, come on, man. What is this crap? The only clever part that I saw was the Fiend and Alexa Bliss, because if they were smart, that now would be the time to turn Bliss into Sister Abigail.
Yeah, that seems to be a lot of the internet's calling for that. Actually, it's funny you mentioned Fight Night. I had the note down. I was going to ask you, being doing the boxing training too. Do you see that being a second coming of the Brawl for All, or is this maybe at this point just throw anything at the wall and see what sticks?
I hope it's not Brawl for All. That was a flop in about a month. They're trying to find something to occupy, to entertain, but it's not working.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sad. They lost a lot of their stars to AEW. They just need to come up with something new. I think Paul Heyman's not in charge. I think it's Pritchard and somebody else.
Yeah. Further, because with Paul Heyman being demoted, they said Bruce Pritchard's the creative control for both Raw and SmackDown. And then I assume since they didn't announce any changes, Triple H and his crew are still running NXT.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they missed the ball with a lot of people. Another thing that irritates me is, here's the problem with WWE and AEW. They're both overpopulated. they got so many people on that roster that they don't know what to do with any of them. A lot of them. Unless you are a main event star or you have potential, you barely get used. Which I mean, shit. If I became a millionaire by doing nothing, okay. But literally, they dropped the ball with EC3.
Mm-hmm.
He should be multiple time world champion. They dropped the ball with Leo Rush. He should have made a few IC title reigns. They dropped the ball with Zack Ryder. It's like this is a pattern here. They're wasting.
Right.
How Miz and Dolph Ziggler don't have 2 or 3 more world title reigns is beyond me.
Well, you got to have John Cena and Randy Orton have 30 between the two of them, so you got to keep the stranglehold.
Because it's John Cena and Randy Orton or this era Stone Cold and Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Roman's sliding in. I don't know, but we definitely need a top heel. That's why I said Miz could have been the top heel for another like 5-10 years. But
right. You know, it's actually funny you mentioned that. We talked about that on a show recently, that your talent is so heavily fractured because you have your Roman Reigns and your John Cena's, who were really, I don't want to say overly pushed, but you know, where they do their Monster of the Week storyline, where you build up somebody just to have them lose at the pay-per-view, and then you build up another heel just to have them lose at the pay-per-view. You never end up building a top level heel. So, I mean, other than Miz, you mentioned, do you see anybody that they could maybe build a long-term feud around, be a Roddy Piper, be a Ministry Undertaker, where you can have a long-term heel that's credible for years?
Honestly, I could have said you could have been, well, Seth Rollins is about as close as a top heel as you can get right now. But if you're talking about looking in the future, I could definitely see Andrade or Angel Garza in that role. Because Angel Garza reminds me of Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
Andrade reminds me of, like, I'd say Guerrero and Essa Rios. I mean, there's different options. I mean, in my opinion, like, if you're talking about the top heel for the future as pro wrestling as a whole, I easily got to go to MJF. I mean, that dude, I only met that dude twice at Creative Pro seminars, and we did a tag team match together.
Oh, nice.
We barely called anything. We fed off each other.
Yeah, I'll give you that. We'll talk about AEW here in a moment, but I'm a huge fan. He is pure talent. But I mean, he can tell the story in the ring, which is really something you don't see a lot today. And he's got the mic skills. But actually, that's an interesting point. One of his talents is the ring psychology, which a lot of our veterans that we talk to on the show have talked about being kind of a dying art. Where do you fall on that mentality that sometimes telling the story in the ring is better than, or is more important than putting on a quality match?
Because the story is what sells the match. Like, prime example, I'm not putting myself over, but the best match in my career was Phil Brown, the last man standing match at ECW. We told the story of I think I'm better than Phil Brown. I mean, people don't understand the backstory of me and Phil Brown. Phil Brown brought me into SPW and helped train me. And for the longest time, I always felt like I had some shoes to fill. I felt like I was just as good, if not better than Phil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when we did the last man standing match, we literally beat the shit out of each other. A lot of people don't realize this, but I had to go to the ER after the match because
shit,
I got kicked in the throat. And the reason why I was down for so long was because I had blood filling my lungs. So, like, as soon as I powdered, I went straight to the ER. And one of my lungs were, like, caved in. So, I mean, we beat each other. And the story was, okay, I stole this championship because I'm desperate. I'm a heel. I'm a coward. So when Phil came out, I dropped the belt and I left. But then when I was to escape, he beat the shit out of me. Storytelling is definitely, if there's no storytelling in a match, the moves don't mean anything. From the pace to the storytelling to the moves, everything has to click. Like, prime example, one of the best storytelling, one of the best examples of storytelling I saw was Shawn Michaels versus Triple H, either the Hell in a Cell or Last Man Standing match. You could even go, Triple H and Orton when Orton was young, and there was mentor versus pupil.
Mm-hmm.
So story to me is really important. I don't like to bury people, but I see a lot of matches where there's just moves with no sequence, with no meaning. Kick, enziguri, flips. That's cool and all, but like back in my a suicide dive got a pop because people don't do it often. Now they do that shit every match.
Yes, that's something we talked about actually just on our last show. You mentioned AEW. I'm a pretty harsh critic of some of that. I call it amateur wrestling, where you get these guys that look more like kids playing wrestler than they do wrestling. And I'm not trying to call anybody out in particular, but someone like a Young Bucks, where you'll have 25 super kicks in one match and a dozen suicide dive, or someone like a Kenny Omega, where it's flip, high spot, flip, high. The moves are impressive, but 5 minutes into the match, I don't know what the hell's going on. There's no story. Whereas if you look at, say, one of the better examples I can think of is WrestleMania 3, Hogan Andre. That was a really, I mean, technically speaking, that wasn't a very well orchestrated match. You had two kind of bigger lumbering guys, but no one remembers that match as anything but one of the greatest things they've ever seen, because the story was so strong. So on your end, then, when you're playing, obviously, on all the time I've watched you've been a consistent heel. Where do you go as far as the training and the mentality for the story, like you were talking with you and Phil, versus I've got to get the big spots, I've got to pop the crowd, but at the same time, I got to tell a story?
I'm technical. I'm not old school. I'm a brawler. I can do anything and everything. I choose not to dive because, for one, there's no longevity if you dive every match. It's going to catch up. I don't need to dive to get a pop. I get a pop because my character works. That's my problem. If I'm on the new generation, the new guys that don't do that flippy doo-hop circus shit, I'm not shitting on it, but I don't agree with it because, for one, if you do it the right way, the dive's gonna get a pop. Like, if you do it midway through the match out of desperation, okay, he's literally throwing the body at the guy to knock him down. If you do it 5 minutes in the match, how are you gonna follow it up 2 or 3 spots after that? You got nothing to follow up with, and the crowd's already seen the most exciting part of the match.
Right. No, that's a fair point.
It's a fight. Like, to me, my mentality, this is what Floyd Mayweather told me. Whether you win or lose, people pay to see me.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't gonna make money if you make stupid decisions. If you're legitimately fighting somebody, why would you do a front flip? You're not an American Ninja Warrior. You're trying to literally punch the guy out. So when I'm in the ring, I'll try to knock you out or choke you out or just beat you up and knock your teeth out. I don't need to flip. Like, one of the best matches I also had was me versus Carino. I let Colby do the lucha stuff. I grounded him every spot. A backbreaker, suplex. I mean, so flips are overused. Kicks are overused. The one thing that really pisses me off is when I see somebody work the leg and they're doing super kicks. If you're working the leg, you can't kick. You can't dive. Or if you're going to dive, limp or hold your leg after you dive. I see these guys get their legs destroyed and they're doing like Canadian destroyers. It made no sense. Besides, psychology nowadays is pretty much kind of dead because I feel like I'm a heel. I can get away with this shit. But I feel like the fans ruined wrestling in a sense because they're looking for over-the-top shit.
Mm-hmm.
Fans from 10 years ago want storytelling. Now these fans want us to maim ourselves. We can maim ourselves without actually maiming ourselves. That's where art comes into play. I'm going to put him over, but me and him recently had a falling out. And me and Damian Wayne's one of my trainers. That man could get a pop, and he doesn't have to do fancy shit. He punches you in the mouth, he drop kicks you, chops you, pop. Because that's where I got my old school mentality was from Wayne. Because he taught me, you don't need to do a 450 to get a pop. So I mean,
I hope that's one of the moves you picked up from him, because anybody that has had the opportunity to see him, Damian Wayne's got one of the prettiest drop kicks I've ever seen. So you talk about, actually, it's funny you mentioned punching in the mouth. That's something that's come up too. One of the more vocal critics on social media and the podcast network is Jim Cornette, about the idea of the real fight. You have to make the crowds aren't interested if the fight, because let me rephrase that. That's my big objection to it. When you have some of these high spots where, you mentioned the Canadian Destroyer, that's certain moves that it's even the casual fan, it's obvious the guys in the ring are working together. And that's not to say that wrestling has to be real, but when you watch a Flair Steamboat, or you mentioned, say like Hart HBK or HBK Triple H, you can have spots where the guys work together, but it still looks like a fight. When you're sitting there and you're you're positioning yourself right under the rope, and there's 9 guys that you're going to jump into, and it looks like a stunt show. I think the point you made, and I'm going to ask you to expand on that, is where do you draw the line with, like, you want to kind of push the envelope a little bit, but at the same time you want to keep grounded in what worked, because that's where the fans were. I mean, 30,000 people showing up at a Sunday night heat versus SmackDown selling out with 12,000. Like the crowds left when all this crazy shit started happening.
Well, like you said, I got pet peeves in the match. One thing I hate more than anything is the diving spot when the guy that's gonna catch me looks up and waits for me. Like, if I'm catching you, I'm having my back turned to you until you are in the air. So I don't expect. I'm not gonna sit here like, let me catch you like a fucking no. It's
right.
Part of being an artist is to hide certain stuff. This is why there's smarts, because we give our own shit away. So if I know someone's diving on me, I'm not gonna have I'm gonna have my back turned to them because I have this sense. So when I see something in the air, I look up and okay, let me get it. Or if I see somebody waiting to get punched, why are you gonna look at me? Why aren't you gonna try and dive or get out the way? So there's little that I see that don't make no sense. I like any show I'm booked on, I watch every match. This today's wrestling is it's crazy. I'm not gonna call it a circus, but it's not believable. I mean, and to me, I'm gonna touch a subject, this intergender wrestling. I'm sure there are a lot of girls in the world that can give me a run for my money, but realistically, this is a fact. Men are genetically stronger than the women. Yes. To me, I feel like intergender wrestling opens the door for domestic violence, because if I'm in the ring with a woman, which the women are killing it right now. I'm not taking nothing, but if I'm in the ring with a woman and we're wrestling and I'm hitting her, which I'll never hit a woman, somebody in the crowd be like, oh, Irvin Legend's beating a woman. Let me. The next time I get pissed off, I'm gonna do that to my wife. So then that falls on me because I set the example. That's just me. Some people might disagree with me, but I don't support it. It's believable if it's done right. I won't participate in it because that's like justifying hitting a woman, whether it's in the ring or not.
Right. You know, it's funny. We had a series of female. We did the ladies of wrestling, and we had a handful of old female legends, and every single one of them across the board, from currently active to your Joyce Grables of the 80s and 70s, all said that they hate the idea of women and men wrestling, because it not only a lot of what you said, where it kind of hurts the atmosphere, but it also devalues the women's title, because you have someone like when Tessa Blanchard was the Impact heavyweight champion. Well, what does the Impact women's title mean? Absolutely nothing, because the best woman on your roster is not your women's champion. And no matter who is, you're not the best woman on the roster. So your women's title is meaningless.
What irritates me is women have busted their ass for decades they've solidified themselves as equals.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the ring with a man, you devalue yourself as an athlete. For one, it should be women's wrestling and men's wrestling. It shouldn't mix and match, because for one, it's not believable. It makes me look weak.
Right.
It makes them look like superhumans. And then at the same time, it's double standard. If I go home and we get in a fight and the woman gets beat up, which never happened because I don't hate women, but it just opens up the door for too many negative stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, you had women pioneers bust their ass to be equal. Now you got women's and men wrestling together. So not only does that take away from our title championship, it takes away from the women's championship. I can't support it. I mean, I'll make an exception. Like when me and Casey Carlisle did that spot in BCW, that made sense. Why? Because I was counting money. I was not paying attention. I turned around, bam, got me out.
Right.
But if we legit got in a wrestling match, it's not believable.
I can understand that. And, you know, it's funny. Another point that kind of comes up when you talked about the believability. There's one of the better examples, I should say, through history was when Mark Marrow jumped to the WWF after being Johnny B. Bad in WCW. He was slated for a feud with Steve Austin, and Steve Austin put a quash on that the night before they were supposed to start the house show circuit, because on, I think it was Raw, Sable beat up Mark Marrow, and he apparently, the way the story goes, Steve Austin called the front office and was like, he just got his ass whooped by a woman. What challenge is he going to give me? This story's killed. And Marrow never really recovered push-wise. So, I mean, I see your point with the narrative, but then you talk about the spot, obviously, where, you know, you can have maybe a interference, a low blow, a ref distraction, something like that. But where do you think that puts do you think that having a woman in a main event or in a man spot do you think that hurts any attempt at branching out further? Like if you were to have a women's tag division or a women's cruiserweight, where you have women that are saying I'm too good to compete with the women on this roster. Doesn't that devalue the rest of the female athletes?
Yes and no. Like, I believe personally that a woman is totally capable of being a main event spot, but as long as it's with another woman. Like, women need to face the women, men need to face the men. The only thing that will make sense if we do an interference angle, like if I'm working a guy and a woman comes out, a woman's wrestler, a female talent. You gotta be careful how you use the term woman because I'm not devaluing them as human beings. But
I understand.
The only thing that makes sense is if like they give me a little blow. I mean, hell, you can get away with the Hurricane Rana spot as long as that's all you do. You can do it the right way, but literally locking up and power slamming me, not gonna happen.
Right, and when you have. You mentioned like WWE earlier, someone like a Braun Strowman, where you build it up, where he's literally tossing a big rig and flipping an ambulance. He gets in the ring with someone like an Alexa Bliss. How is that supposed to be a fair fight?
Over the top now. Like, I believe in mixed tag, yeah, but as intergender, I don't support it. I don't believe it. It's not believable. Again, my biggest problem is domestic violence. Because there's too much of that, and it really pisses me off anytime I see a man hit a woman, because that's weak.
Right.
There's a double standard because now they're like, well, women deserve to be treated equally, which they do. But here's the thing. If a woman hits the man, in today's society, the woman's going to get hit back, which I don't agree with. I don't even think a woman should hit a man. I don't think there should be any hitting at all, unless you're trying to defend yourself for whatever reason.
Right.
But realistically, it makes if a woman beats me up, it takes away from my mystique. Takes away from me as a man. I'm not going to devalue myself to put, to do that. I mean, as long as we do it the right way, cool. But my biggest problem again is somebody sees in the ring with a woman, and I'm stomping her lights out in the corner.
Right.
Somebody can get drunk that night and stomp their wife out for real, and then that's gonna motivate them to actually beat on a woman for real. So that's my biggest fear is.
I can respect that.
Because people still, I saw Stone Cold give Lita the stunner. Let me go home I saw Stone Cold hit Lita over the head with the back of the chair, or I saw Baron Corbin give Becky Lynch the end of days. Let me go home and do that to my wife, and hopefully it made no sense. It's a dangerous spot to be in. The only thing I would approve of is maybe giving them one or two spots to help their alley, or maybe get some revenge on me. Like a low blow is fine, a slap is fine, Hurricane Rana, whatever, even DDT if it's done right. I got no problem putting over women, but I'm not going to be in a singles match with them. I mean,
I can understand that. Well, then let's transition from there. You talk about your singles and tags matches, and you've mentioned obviously your bit with Phil Brown. There was an old saying in wrestling that everybody has a first love and a true love. Who, outside of the story you told with Phil Brown, who's your favorite person you've worked with since you've been in wrestling?
Aside from Phil Brown?
Yeah, I mean, you already I told that story. Do you have if he's number one, I guess you can tell us another Phil Brown story. But do you have somebody else that you really enjoyed working with, or would love to go out of your way to work with again?
Probably Gangrel.
Okay.
That was one of the biggest matches in my career. I mean, I grew up watching the guy. He's awesome. He's professional, nice guy. Of course, I lost. No
shame in that. That was actually a hell of a match. I was in the crowd that night.
I tried doing some tricks, tried the garlic, holy water cross, none of it worked. But then I realized, Irvin, Gangrel sells a garlic hot sauce. So I was like, all right, well, shit, none of that worked.
Right. It's actually funny. That kind of goes back to the original point. Having watched that match, that was a story too. You had the kind of not maybe the cowardly is not the right word, but the kind of scared heel that was doing the whatever he could to get away from the guy you were scared to fight, but at the same time you could tell this you have a reputation, you can't back away. You talked a lot of shit the previous months, and I think it was a great mix of, and I'm saying this as a compliment to the match. It was a great mix of, I hate to use the term, but I guess the slang is chicken shit heel, and as well as somebody who tried to take the shot because you had to talk shit to the crowd. So let me ask you there, how does that story go? When you were I'm not asking you to peel back the curtain too much, but what preparation goes into a match like that where there's such a unique storyline?
I just always have the wheels spinning, and I literally spent the night watching vampire movies. Like, okay,
That's great.
Because I try to kind of imitate Orton versus Undertaker at SummerSlam as much as I could.
Okay.
Because Gangrel is like a phenomenon. So with me being a legend, technically I'm not a legend killer,
Right.
but I'm going after all the legends so that I can be the only legend in business in my own eyes. That's my goal. So I talk all that shit, and then when I'm in the match, I'm like, shit, what do I do to beat this guy? I better back to what I say. I don't back down from a fight, but
right.
Gangrel, like someone in the company don't like me, but I guess you can call myself a chicken shit. I'm just very smart.
I'm not a big. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
If I know I bit off more than I could chew, I'm doing everything in my power to get the upper hand.
Right. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that term. That's just what I've heard people use. The cowards. You mentioned. I think I would say Seth Rollins during his first title run when he was running from Ambrose and Kane and all them guys. I think that's kind of the mentality of that coward. So then let me ask you something from a fan perspective. You mentioned being a fan of his growing up. I've talked to some guys in the past that have had the chance to wrestle people they grew up watching. When you're in the ring and you're locking up or you're taking the DDT at the end of the match, what goes through your mind? Like, man, this is you were a teenager watching this, and now here I am in the ring. Like, how do you, I guess for lack of a better term, how do you stay in character and not at least crack a smile? Or
if I crack the smile, I crack on the inside. When I'm in the ring, my mindset is it don't matter who I'm in the ring with.
Right.
I'm the best talent in the entire world, signed or unsigned. Can't nobody outperform me. Can't nobody outsell me, and can't nobody do me.
Mm-hmm.
And from an athletic, a promo, I like to think I'm one of the best promo guys here in the area.
Right.
Anytime I grab a microphone, I just say what's on my mind, and hopefully I don't get in trouble. But I don't know. I'm a big promo guy. I love talking shit. I don't like being a baby face. I can do baby face, but I'm kind of cocky. Nothing about me changes.
Yeah. Several high profile and some of the indie guys we've talked to through the year, over the last year, have all said they if they could spend their career without ever being a babyface, they would, because of how much fun being a heel is. But that's actually a great transition. You talked about promos. That's something that wrestling's been taking a lot of criticism for over the last few years, is the scripted promo, the fake, just awful sounding, sucker and succotash bad promos. You mentioned when you get out there, it's you, the mic, the crowd, you're done. Do you do a bullet point? Do you just have a rough idea and shoot from the hip, the way someone like The Rock said he used to do, where he would just have 2 or 3 points he's going to hit and whatever flows? Or do you go out there Ultimate Warrior style and just talk through until you make your point and then be done with it?
Well, for me, I used to be underground rapper, so I'm comfortable on the mic, and I'm comfortable with like bam, 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 bam. I'm always thinking. So sometimes it all depends. I'll be giving bullet points, but most times I don't hit them. Or if I think I'm gonna hit them, I do it my way. So like, if I was cutting a promo on Gangrel and I was told, okay, hit this, this, and this, I'll hit it the way I'm gonna hit it.
Right.
The worst thing is too pre-rehearsed, because a promo to me, it ain't a promo unless it's natural.
Right.
So every fucking thing down, people pick up, oh, he literally wrote all that shit down. It don't sound natural to me. That's what tells a promo, in my opinion, is how natural and raw it is. And with me, used to be a rapper, I used to do battle rap. So you had to be quick with the distance. So when I'm on the mic, it don't matter who I'm in the ring with, I have about 15 different jokes I can lay on you just like that. And you won't be ready for them because you won't respond, because I'll be hitting you with more. Like when Phil was in the ring, I was calling him a crackhead Terry Crews. I was I said every time we went to the family reunion, you stole the sweet potato pie. I said, you know what I'm saying? I said, you kick yourself one time and you get a cramp. I was talking so much shit, and I literally made him laugh in the ring after I beat him by count out because his knee gave out. Like, the story was, he can't kick if his knee's fucked up. So when I won by count out, I grabbed his leg. I'm like, you good, Uncle Ruckus? And he just started bursting out laughing. Like, he looked right at me, laughing. I had to put my hand down because I was laughing. I got to my thing. He was like, why are you laughing? I said, because I ripped the fuck out of Phil. I said, do me a favor. I said this all to them, crowd. I was like, yo, play my music, but announce I'm the winner so I can stop laughing. When we got to the back, I was bursting out laughing. We got a little bit heat, for that. I don't know. It's not everybody has the ability to do promos. Like if you're a heel, you don't have to be good on the mic, but it helps. Like Randy Orton, he's not bad on the mic, but he's never been top tier. He had his moments, but
Right.
he can tell a story about his facial expressions. You know what I'm saying? Someone like Dolph Ziggler or Miz, they're fucking money on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like put myself over, but if anything, I think my mic works better than my in-ring work, in my opinion.
Now, you mentioned being you're underground rapping. One of the things that came out of the shift to the Performance Center the WWE had when they first opened that was Dusty Rhodes taught a promo class, and that's something they still run with William Regal and some of those guys. Did you specifically work and train on promos, or do you have guys that do that? Or is it, if you got it, you got it. If you don't, here's a mouthpiece, or stay away from the mic?
It's pretty much if you got the gift of gab, you got the gift of gab. If you don't, well, you better have a personality. And if you don't, well, here's a mouthpiece. Like, even when I first started training, all I did was talk shit. Like, drills, I'm like, oh, you busted, 25 push-ups. Y'all supposed to be pro athletes, and you're up here looking like you spent 2 years at Golden Corral, and you can't even see your own penis. You can't even do a sit-up by yourself. So, like, I've always been the guy to talk shit. So, like, when I was told, like, when I first came to VCW, I was a babyface, which I didn't mind it. I just didn't like it. That wasn't me. I don't like kissing ass. I had to kiss ass.
Right.
I was
told the crowd and all.
Now the real Irvin Legend come out, and because of that, like I'm obsessed with money. Every time I lose, I blame the money because I'm blinded by it. I can't get enough of it, and sometimes it distracts me. So with me being on the money team, I'm trying to be as close to Floyd Money Mayweather as I can in the wrestling. Mm-hmm. Like kind of how he talks is how I talk. Kind of the shades, the furry coats,
right.
$500 gold shoes I haven't worn yet. So I mean,
did that inspire the look too, with the ring attire, the gold and the trim and all that?
To me, my favorite color is gold. So all my gear has gold in it because gold to me represents excellence. That's what I think I am. So that's why I have like purple and gold, black and gold, red and gold, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, then let me ask you. You talked about where working and everything. Let me segue to another part. As a performer, when you were coming up and you were training and you talked about bouncing back and forth between the schools. How do you maybe shed some light on the indie scene? How do you go about getting out there? Do people contact you, or do you kind of solicit yourself to say, look, I see, let me send in a demo tape, or let me talk to some of your guys and they could put a word in for me? How do you go about being, say, from if I'm like you and I are both here in Virginia, to if you want to go wrestle in Pennsylvania or Florida? How does that course happen?
Oftentimes it depends on who you're with, who you get trained by. And your first, like for me at this point, I'll send footage out. But if I know someone's going, like if I know someone's in Virginia where I'm at, and I know they're booked in Maryland, I'll just ride with them on my gear. And then hopefully I'll send my stuff out before we go. And then I get there, maybe have a spot for me. If not, then I'll get one later. If you want to get your name out, you gotta be professional. You gotta have a resume. You gotta have some matches and promo clips. And won't hurt to send all that to the promoter. But oftentimes it's like right time, right place. Most of these promoters don't want to spend the extra dollar to bring you in, and if they're gonna bring you in, it's going for a reason.
Okay.
So my best bet is just get in the car and go. When you see a show, if it ain't too far, just drive up there and see what's up. And sometimes they'll need somebody extra, and that's your chance to shine. Like that's how I got into VCW. I set the ring up. I kept going to shows, and they needed some fillers for lottery, and I showed out in the lottery. That's the lottery where I literally lasted an hour. And I did a backflip when I was eliminated, and I think that was one of the longest times to be in the lottery. And then I became one of the main heels there, aside from Brandon Scott. So it's all about making an opportunity for yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's how you do that. Now, if you're just starting, you want to be on the road with the bet. But if you got some years on you like I do, it's just you got to hit your spots, smart. If you're in Virginia, hit the New England region. If you want to hit Florida, hit there. Hit Maryland.
Well, then let me ask you something. You talked about your story getting involved. One of the better cases in wrestling was Diamond Dallas Page. His first professional match, he was almost 40. Is there a point where you would tell somebody, it's never too late to look into it? And if you're, say, like I just turned 37, if I was to get interested in wrestling, what would you say to somebody in their mid 30s or early, maybe past the point of where you would expect to start? What would your advice be to them if they wanted to get involved?
Just got to make sure you're in the best shape of your life for your age. I mean, you've seen people break in 30s, 40s. I think Wayne broke in think Wayne broke in mid-30s,
Okay.
early 30s, and he's one of the most accomplished wrestlers in the area.
Right.
Ended up a world champion, you know. So I mean, it's never too late to an extent. But you gotta make sure you can carry the load. That's why I broke in at 20. I'm 27 now, so I still got I still got at least 15 years left in the tank, at least. I don't plan on stopping until I'm 40.
Okay.
So.
Well, then what about the other side? What if you don't mind me asking, since we're on the topic of breaking in, what would you say, having I mentioned earlier my buddy, our buddy Jeff, what would you say to somebody that wanted to break in as, say, a referee or an announcer or maybe a manager, a character, a valet, something like that? Would they take the same path like you said with the demo tapes and show up, or is there a different course for that?
Well, whether you're a in-ring talent, a referee, a manager, still a talent. So you always got to carry yourself professional at all times. If you just want to be a referee, you can have. I mean, it's hard to send tapes of you being a referee. I mean, I guess it's possible, but you always want to have something on hand to send out. So
Okay.
if you want to physically limit yourself to just being a manager, then regardless, you always want to have a character, except when you're a referee. Some referees are heels, some are faces, some are in between.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of always want to have this mindset. Okay, here's what I want to do. This is the style I want to have, and this is what I want to be known for. Like, to my personal opinion, not only because he's a good friend of mine, a lot of people don't realize this, but the greatest referee of all time right now, some might disagree, but I think it's Marty Elias, because I put him over Lil Nate's. I put him over Chad Patton. I put him over Tim White, because Marty Elias developed a reputation for himself before he got signed. And he's extended his brand to Fozzy, Kiss. He does a lot of stuff. So in my personal opinion, Marty already had accolades before he got signed to WWE.
Okay.
So I mean, no matter what position you're in, you got to just make sure you be the best to your ability. So if you want to be a referee or a manager, have a vision, have a plan, and execute it. If you want to be a wrestler, and I'm not gonna sit here and say everybody's gonna get signed, because not everybody does, but you got to have a plan. Like, if something don't work, you got to have another plan. Because stuff's never promised in this business. Like, for me, I never thought I'd become friends with Tyson Kidd. I never thought I'd be friends with Natty. I never thought that I'd be accepted to Seth Rollins school. Never in a million years that I did that. It happened because I promote the hell out of my brand. Even when I'm not doing anything, I make connections silently.
Right. Yeah, your social media presence is definitely par for the course. And then let me ask you something there. We've talked social media before on the show. Where do you blur the line there between you and the Irvin Legend, the wrestler, when you have a social media? Do you have a private persona and a public persona, or is it now that you're a public figure, that's it online, and the only people who know, I don't want to say the real you, for lack of a better term, the real you, are the ones that know you?
I don't really believe in the personal and professional page. I just have the Irvin Legend page, but I'm very careful about what I put on my page. I mean, I'll talk about certain stuff, but other stuff I keep off social media. Like, for me, I don't want people to know my real name. So I'm known as Irvin Legend in and outside the ring. My family knows my real name. My first real name is Irvin, but the rest is like a personal thing. I
can understand that.
You got to stay in gimmick all the time, because for me, the biggest thing about gimmick killer is if you're a heel and even when I go to the store, I'm in gimmick. So like today I went to Walmart to get some food, and this clerk was being a real dick. And I was like, all right, well, I don't got all day. I got shit. I got a place to be. Just ring my shit up so I can leave.
Right.
And they went to VCW, so saw me and was like, hey, can I get a picture? I said, you better make it quick, kid. I got shit. I didn't talk to him, didn't smile. I took his picture. I said, get the hell out.
Right.
Because if you're nice to him, when you're at a show, like, oh, he was nice to me at the store, kills your entire gimmick.
I can understand that. We had a roundtable a couple weeks ago talking about social media, and there have been some high-profile stories that have ended because people broke character on social media. Or when you see someone like Randy Orton punting Stephanie McMahon in the face, being this evil, wicked POS heel, and the next week he's on CNN doing an interview at a Tribute for the Truth show. I can't believe anything I see from him and I'm not saying, obviously kayfabe's dead, the genie's back in a bottle, but let me get your opinion on that since we're on the subject. Do you think that the modern the digital age with social media and Twitter and Facebook has killed what was left of believability?
Because people slip up. I think Orton can get away with that because he's a good heel. That he can get away with it. But if what doesn't, what I don't understand, like I just saw, like Kairi Sane got sent off, but like right after she left, she's on social media talking about, oh, thank you for having me, yada yada yada. I would have waited about a week because for one, you pretty much killed that assault that all them girls did on you. Like they literally beat you up so badly that you weren't moving, but you can go sit on a computer and type.
Right.
You just killed everything that those girls did to you. You made the whole thing like shit. So like, I wish people would think about before they do it. Like, okay, I can go to a special needs place to take pictures. All right, it's called charity. That's what heels or baby faces do. But you'll never catch me taking a picture with someone I just worked and say respect. Listen, Irvin Legend don't give a damn about respect. You know what I care about? I care about winning championships, making money, and getting every woman I possibly can. I don't give a damn about respect because respect don't get you paid.
Right.
So the last thing I'm not going to do is take a picture of someone in a restaurant and just work. Like, if I know someone's going to be in a restaurant that I work, I'm going to the other side of the restaurant.
That's fair. Back in the kayfabe days, we've had some fun stories that we actually had some wives on, Jimmy Snuka, Wahoo McDaniel, their respective wives on. And even the women, even the wives and girlfriends had to keep kayfabe. Like heels and faces didn't travel together. Heels and faces wives didn't, like you said, opposite sides of the dining hall. I guess then let me ask you something. As far as I'll take VCW, the local promotion here, when the show's over and people are packing up their tables and all that, where do you draw that? Because then at that point you kind of the mystique sort of fades a little bit. Sometimes you might hear somebody slip up and use a real name. Do you go out of your way for that in instances like that? I'm staying in the locker room or I'm staying in character until the last fan's out of the building.
What I do, Irvin Legend does what he wants to do. So if you're a true professional, you never let your mystique fade away. So what I do is I wait till a lot of the fans are gone, but I'll still dress up like jeans, nice shirt, jewelry, whatever. So if a fan does see me and tries to talk, I'll have my back turned to him, or like if he wants a pick, I won't smile. I'll take his pick, tell him to get the step. But what I don't understand is if you're a heel, why are you going out during the intermission and like smiling and talking to kids? I don't give a damn about no kids. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm not gonna smile at them. People just need to be smarter and just live their character, because that's why people ain't getting signed, because they don't live the character 24/7. My mentality is the only time people get a character is when they're at home with their family. If you're out in public, at the beach, guys stay in character somewhat, because the moment you slip up and they see you at a show, they're gonna know that, okay, Irvin Legend is not mean in real life. That was a bunch of bullshit. And you just shit on everything you try to everything you try to make them believe, you just shit it on.
Right. That's the the idea of you won't believe wrestling is real, but you can believe that I'm real. So then let me ask you something there. You talked about with respect to the character and social presence. Do you and being signed and expansion, where do you go from here? Obviously you talked about the you dropped the bomb on the school, which is awesome news. Where do your plans go from here in the post-COVID world? Where are you going personally as far as wrestling? Are you, because the shows some within a short distance of where we live are going to start opening up here next month. Do you see yourself getting back into it anytime soon, or what's the plan?
I mean, I really won't know until I see what the governor's going to do, until I see how this pandemic is going. I mean, I'd love to wrestle next month, but I don't think it's going to happen, because I think the governor says you can't hold an event more than 150, I think, and we draw 500. So there's no way we can squeeze 150. So, I mean, I'm planning on taking the rest of the year off, but I'm going to be working on other projects until shows are running again. I mean, who knows? And maybe in November, October, it will be, we can run shows again.
Okay.
I'm still promoting and setting stuff so that when COVID is over, because a lot of these guys, here's where they're fucking up. The COVID is around. They're not doing nothing. They're just sitting on their ass eating Twinkies, getting fat. So if you're not putting work in or making a plan, when COVID is over, you'll have nowhere to go. This will be their time to make connections. Promote up Be like, well, when COVID's over, I'm available. And then let's just hope they hit you up. I'm always doing something.
You mentioned that was going to be my next question. Your social media, a lot of what you cover is your training regimens and your workout routines, which, by the way, testament to your physical ability, some of what you talk about doing. Do you see, has that been easier or harder in this post-COVID world, staying in shape with the gyms? Are they empty? Do you have to make special arrangements?
I mean, it definitely sucks. Like the gym I go to it took all the machines out. So I'm like, I've had to like stick to home workouts, or sometimes I'll get lucky and go to my friend's private gym, or like today I had to go to Planet Fitness. But I had to call them at 8:00 and I had to like pay a fee to have the gym closed off so I could use like half of it for like an hour or two. So I mean, I'm trying to like, plan as I go, but that's why you need to have home workouts. When stuff like this does happen, you can still work out. I mean, I can't speak for all these guys. I don't know if they're working out. I'm seeing a lot of people on my feed, still getting it in, but some ain't. I mean, then they come back looking like they got a damn rack of Pillsbury biscuits. They ain't been cooked yet. So I mean, that's the because they flat. I mean, you're a professional athlete. You gotta look like them. You can't be looking like someone who not knocking someone who works at Wendy's, but you can't look like you work at Wendy's and then go home and then sell games from GameStop or something. If you're a professional, you look like it. Don't matter how small or big you are. Like I'm 5'9", I'm 190, but I look a little bigger than I am because my nutrition's right, my supplementation's right, my diet's right, my workout fit for me.
You've got a good physique going for you. I mean, I'm by no means in shape. I'm 6'2" and better part of pushing 300. But if you look at other people I know that are 300 pounds and they can't fit through a doorway. So I mean, when you say 190, there's 190 you, and then there's 190 that guy working at the mall that Actually, it's funny because that's a good point. As we get towards the end here, I want you to thoughts on that. One of the criticisms wrestling has gotten in recent years with the push to some of the smaller guys, some of the more normal. I don't know, maybe normal is not the right word, but the more normal looking guys. This larger than life athlete, 6'10", jacked, Mr. Universe looking guy is slowly fading away. Do you think that's helping or hurting in the long run of the business?
Helping, because that's Vince McMahon's vision. He always looks bigger guys, but sometimes the best stars are smaller guys. I feel like everybody deserves a chance to shine. If you got it, you don't. If you don't, you don't. You don't got to be 6'10" and 300 pounds to be a main event star. You could be Daniel Bryan and Jericho's height. I mean, the one thing that I should have mentioned this talking about Dobbs, but what pisses me off is when I see a big guy doing small guy shit. Like if you're 300 pounds, you ain't supposed to be Dobbs. What are we going to do? What are we going to give someone a power bomb? Certainly not.
Yeah.
So the wrestling needs to hit a reset button because it's fucked up. And like, to me, the good thing about like Triple H that he's doing is he's giving the smaller guys chances to shine. It's not always been about the bigger guys. Like back when I broke, it was always about the bigger guys. So I had to work twice as hard to get respect. So now I can get respect because I work as hard as everybody else. So if you have a character, you sell tickets, you sell merchandise. It don't matter if you're 5'9", 6'3", 260, 190. You're marketable. I'm old school, so I don't believe in having merchandise because it's really hard to sell merchandise at indie show.
Right.
And if you're a heel, who gives a shit if they buy your stuff? I don't want no interaction with no fans. I certainly don't want no punk ass kid coming up to me. Hey, can I buy a shirt or a bracelet? Like I don't want to talk to this damn kid. So I don't believe a heel. You ain't supposed to sell merchandise.
I can see that. That's fair. Well, then, as we kind of wrap up here, let me ask you one final thought. Then, with the again, that's a point actually. Chris Jericho made that in a recent podcast. He was telling the story of his partnership with the Big Show, where Big Show kept pushing to get team name T-shirts and all that made. And Jericho explained how when you're a true heel, you don't have merchandise. You don't want exactly what you just said with the fans and all. Then put me through how you put yourself over outside of letting your ring work do the talking. If there's no shirts, is it word of mouth? Is it signs? Is it just presence? How do you put yourself over without that in the merchandise world?
Because I'm one in a million. People pay to see me. They don't pay to see Cobra Carino, they don't pay to see Phil, but they pay to see Irvin Legend. So, I mean, yeah, you buy a ticket to come see your boy, but I don't need to sell merch to get over. I don't need to sell merch to get a fan base. My fan base speaks through social media. My fan base speaks through my work and my promos. That sells more than any T-shirt. Because here's the problem with merchandise for a heel. You have to break kayfabe.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have some hot shirts right off the presses I want people to buy, I have to talk to those shitheads. I don't like kids. I legit don't like. I don't like the little snot nosed, fucking granny looking moms. I don't want to be bothered. I just want to get paid and leave and hit the clubs after. I don't care about the other shit. So if you're a heel, you're really not supposed to have merchandise. That's why every time I see a heel come out, hey, buy my merch. You just talk about how you don't give a damn about the fans. Why you give a damn if they buy your stuff?
That's a fair point.
Like I've never needed merchandise. I mean, maybe like, and also, how you expect to sell merchandise in the Indies and you get picked up? Okay, I've already bought Irvin Legend merchandise on the Indies, but now he's in WWE. Why would I buy a second pair of merch? Don't you want your merch to fucking sell like hotcakes when you get picked up? Oh, that's Irvin Legend's first shirt. Let me buy it. Let me buy it. Well, and then the guy, number A, I have Irvin Legend shirt from the Indies, but I already have one, so I don't need the WWE one. You gotta be, I know it's hard for me to like keep my, I don't give a crap about fans right now, but it's really hard for me to keep my name out without merchandise. But I've learned how to do that because I consider myself an old school heel in a new school environment. Some of the stuff I do is a mix of new and old school, but my mentality is old as they come. I don't, as a babyface, yeah, okay, depending on merchandise, you're a fan base, but even then, you place a limit on what you can do. So like, it helps that I'm a heel because I don't need merchandise.
Right.
I talk shit in the ring. I back it up. Might not always win, but my matches speak for themselves, and that's what gets me fans. Okay, I know when Irvin Legend comes in the card, I'm gonna be entertained. You buy a ticket to see me. That means I didn't have to buy I didn't have to sell you a shirt to make you come see me. I'm working them without spending them a dollar.
There you go.
I always think from a business standpoint. How can I make the most money without spending money of my own?
That's actually a brilliant way to look at it. You don't think about it that way in the sense of having to stay in character in order to do that. That's interesting. Well, we wrap up now. I appreciate your time. This has been great. I do have a kind of a personal question, I should say. Obviously, I knew a lot of the VCW guys. Jeff, I took over for him for this show after he passed. Do you have having both known him, do you have a favorite Jeff story you want to share?
Well, before we talk about, I was actually, before Jeff passed, I was actually supposed to be co-hosting the podcast.
Oh, nice.
But, obviously that's not happening. My personal Jeff story is like one of the VCW shows, I was trying to get Jeff to stop smoking, like, because he smokes. So I hid his pack of Camels in the locker room. I told some guy, yo, get some donuts and put the cigarettes in the donuts and let's see if Jeff finds them. I was fucking with him hard. He comes back, Irv, my Camels go. Like, hey, man, I don't know what happened to him. I was like, yo, I said, I made him go out in the parking lot, walk the whole parking lot. Irv, did I drop him? I said, I don't know, man, but hey, we got some fresh donuts for you. And I wrote a note on the pack of cigarettes like, yo, stop, put these shits down. He can't. I ain't never seen that man get. So he's like, Irv, you took my fucking cigarettes. I'm like, hey, I'm helping you out, Jeff. You know what I'm saying? And there was another time where we were actually hanging out at his house watching old wrestling man tapes, eating wings. And he got me so good. He put Crisco oil on the floor. And he called my friend. He's like, Irv, come quick. Your friend needs help. So I run down the stairs and fucking bust ass. So, and my knees, my elbows, my ass, like sore for like a week. And he knew that's when I had to face the ground a week after that. So I was walking funny because fucking Jeff, like, made me almost break my damn tailbone. So we would fuck each other all the time. That was, he was definitely a funny guy to be around. I miss him dearly.
Yeah, he was a good dude, no question. Well, I appreciate your time. Do you have anything you want to plug? Any final words as we sign off here?
Just don't use this pandemic as an excuse to like not work. You want to work every day. You know what I'm saying? So when this is over, you got something to work towards. You don't want to just slack off. But I definitely recommend everybody keep busy and smashing the goal on the circumstance, or at least trying.
Works for me. Well, I appreciate your time, man. We'll definitely have to have you back. I hope everything works well. Keep in shape, and it's awesome news. Your upcoming school, so that's great. I'm I mean, obviously that's going to work out. I know there's big things in the future for you. Like you said, 15 years. So you saw it here first. You know, keep an eye out. There's a future champion right there.
Hey, man, I definitely appreciate you having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, like I said, we'll definitely have to do this again. So appreciate it. Thank you for the Refs Roundtable. We said a lot tonight. I'm Dan Sebastiano for Irvin Legend. We've said a lot, and we'll see you next time I have something to say. Good night. Take care, brother.